but here are the 3 questions. Sorry, the 1, 2, 3 didn't copy. So the first question, what is the ideal transformation of the practitioners? That is the essential task that the network needs to work on. So the purpose of the network is to work on the transformation of the practitioners. What is that ideal transformation in your own word? And then the second question, what benefit or benefits or value will that transformation enable the practitioners to deliver to organization? And then the last one, what does that enable organization to achieve in regard to their own environment, but also what is the overall impact on the field, whether it's organizational development, organizational potential, however we want to call it.
Beatrice, did you say you posted those? Because I'm not seeing them.
They're on the chat.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
And they are, if you go to the Google Doc, also they're there. So I thought we would take a few minutes individually to just put down some answer to those questions, or what individually we really feel, and then share that, and also share the why, the thinking process behind our answer, and then see from that if we can create a purpose statement.
do we collect what we wrote in a separate document, or do we add it to this one document?
We can. I was thinking that we would share, and then based on the sharing, we would use a document to kind of create one single statement. But if and we'll probably play with multiple versions once again. So if you want to post it, to share it in that document, we can. Yeah, you could.
Mm-hmm.
How you play? Are you?
Should I edit at the end, or should I make a separate document?
No, you don't need to make a separate document. We can just work on.
Okay.
Are you already ready or to share, or do you need more time?
I would be.
Okay. So, who wants to start?
I'll start just as give us something to talk about. I had put to continuously evolve practitioner capacity to work in a developmental way.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the first. That for the first question, right?
Yes.
Why don't you go through the whole thing so that we have a whole?
Okay. Number 2, the benefits. Basically that we will, well, my background thinking is we'll shift from the conventional way to a more evolved way of operating. And to me, it's to operate with more humanity.
Yeah.
Because we'd be developmentally working. And then number 3, the first question, what it enables the organizations to achieve, that they would hopefully develop their own capacity for their organization and to serve the world in their business. And the overall impact for the field, to shift from a conventional to a future capable organization.
Okay. So, do you want to write it down on the Google Doc so that we have a reference? Because I think if everybody, after everybody has shared, I won't be able to remember exactly.
Sure.
Maybe you can use what.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe there is something that you can use.
Thank you.
Oh, you already.
I made a few notes, but.
Oh, you are already posted. Okay.
But please correct it then.
And can I add the words unleash potential on number 3?
Whom are you asking?
I think I'll just put it in there.
Just do it, please.
So, wait a minute. Where do you start, Sandy? Where is it, Brian?
What page am I on? It's at the very end of the document.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. Cindy, so.
With an I, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I would continue. Is this okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the ideal transformation. I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly. What I'm thinking of is, on the one hand, the capacity to adapt to situations, looking for levers. I'm not sure if this is the correct word, but if you have a long lever, you can, okay. What I find more helpful and not helpful, vital, is to see one's own glasses that we are looking through, that we are aware, more aware of these glasses and how these glasses are affecting our perception and action. But I was writing dancing the subject-object dance, so it's like seeing oneself as subject and as object more and more. So that's what this would be my association. Benefits or value, I again and again come back to the model of a virus or infection. I'm not, don't have any better or more positive metaphors at the moment. For me, it's like, in fact, it's like spreading habits, cultures, attitudes, heuristics. So, also among people who would not have been able to come up with them themselves. Could you mute yourself?
I think it's Sandy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So what I realize is it's okay. It's possible to insert heuristics or whatever habits, cultures in an organization, and that people will carry on doing it more or less, but they wouldn't have been able to install them themselves. So this is one of my things that I'm thinking about here in this second question. The third question, well, I'm trying to see three different things. On the one hand, the overall impact would be that individuals are seen as responsible and capable of learning. On the other hand, I see systems that see themselves as agents to sustain this life, to sustain life quality, to enable life quality, and that these systems would see themselves as organisms having somehow a life on their own, and that personal human agents would realize that it's worth the effort to invest energy into generating, however you call it, regenerative structures and cultures, etc. So these are my associations, but I'm not sure if I got the questions right. Thank you.
What I feel is that number 2 and number 3 are reversed. That to me, what you have, the content of number 3 is more what the benefit and value will be for the organization, and what you have for number 2 is more the kind of the more spreading across the field. But that's what I feel is that.
Mm-hmm.
But any questions?
I didn't quite catch the words for number 1 there, Beatrice, either. Somebody can help me out there.
Oh, Bernard, you don't need to capture it, Sandy. Bernard already pasted it. It's above. It's in the page above.
Hello, and apologies for being late.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve. We just did an individual exercise answering the 3 questions again for the purpose statement, not necessarily trying to create good sentences or purpose statement, but just the questions. So you have them in the chat. You can also go to the Google Doc. The link is posted, and we're putting our response. But again, what's the ideal transformation of the practitioners? That is the essential task the network needs to work on. That's the first question. What are the benefits or the value? What benefits or value will that transformation enable the practitioners to deliver to organization? And what does that enable organization to achieve in regard to their own environment? And also what's the overall impact on the field? And go ahead, Brian.
Should I go through mine?
Yeah.
I didn't even try for sentences, so I just kind of made a list of things as well. So the transformation of the practitioners themselves, I think there's something around which both Sandy and Bernard had of shifting from the traditional mindsets around what development is, what DDOs are, things like that, to quote unquote real development in service of greater life, in quotation marks. So what really serves bringing organizations alive, bringing people alive, transforming the ability to be able to discern and work to be above the line. I don't know that we can commit to being above the line all the times, but work to be above the line. And by that discernment, be able to reframe the current conversation or more traditional conversations within that new paradigm. And from all that, then, to be able to connect to something core and true for organizations, I think this is something that is really different in this notion of development, is that you're letting people and organizations connect to what's true for them, their own essence, their own potential, as opposed to making something up or importing something from someplace else. So a practitioner, that's a transformation that the practitioner would go through. And then it occurred to me at the end that I think another really key part of all of this is our own ability as practitioners to be in community with each other. That's come up over and over again in the last couple of years, of how dispersed and alone we all are as practitioners, and there needing to be a community together to be able to support this. So this transformation to be able to build community is actually something pretty different. I don't think most of us are most of us are not good at that. We're used to practicing on our own, I think. So that's a collection of ideas around the transformation of the practitioners. The benefit or value to that the practitioners can then deliver to the organization. The organizations themselves would be able to start their own development in service of who the organization is and what's important to them. And it would breathe new life. Again, there's the life word. I'm using life word a lot. So it might be the meaning, purpose, values into kind of the being of the organization and the organization's work. And then I connected to my own version of what Bernard was saying. And all of this allows humans to really be human together. It really allows the humans to play the role that they could play, but usually don't. Usually they're playing a much smaller role than that. And if all that was going on, then the organizations themselves could live into their own purpose and make their own unique contribution. And I think we could establish developmental approaches as a preferred choice for realizing potential for people, organizations, and systems.
Steve, do you have any additional reflection, maybe complementary, something that you didn't see that in those questions that you would want to add?
Yeah, I've been reflecting on them and looking back on my notes. I think there's something in the transformation, maybe it's related to the community work and being able to act rather than just be in the world of ideas. There's something, I think, in the way that we are able to establish ourselves and just find ways to connect, that action becomes more easy. So I've got a lot about learning and contributing together. So it feels like a symbiotic relationship, and that's just something I see that's possible with the network. That we can create small groups that work and help each other in their fields of interest that expand out. So something along those idea of a sort of regenerative action that is possible. But apart from that, everything I'm listening to resonates very well and is aligned with what I've been thinking.
Okay. And I also don't feel that I have anything really that is in addition or different. I'm kind of struggling today to put words together and have difficulties to focus today. So let's go with what we have now as a starting point. So for the transformation of the practitioners, I think when I look at Sandy's capacity to continuously work in a developmental way, Brian, you have a long list of things, plus Steve's ability to learn and contribute. But that's still in the same realm. The big difference is with you, Bernard. I think what you have, my question for you, Bernard, is in what way do you see this as kind of the mission and purpose of the network? I'm not saying this is not important for each individual to have those capacity, but the question for me is whether this is the specific work of the network.
Are we talking about these 3 lines that I marked?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or another way of framing that would be what makes that uniquely applicable to this network and not some other network.
Right.
I would have thought that what I wrote is more or less just another way to phrase what, for example, Brian wrote. I'm not sure, but maybe would you say that I'm focusing more on the person and his or her, I don't know, stance? I'm not sure.
So yeah, I see them very, very differently. So, and yeah, to go back to Brian's comments in terms of uniqueness of the network, I think I see yours as more generic and his are really specific to what we have been describing the network essence to be about.
I don't have a strong opinion here. I'm happy to follow.
I agree with what you're saying, and I think in order to do or by doing some of the things that I'm pointing to, or that Sandy and I are pointing to, what you're pointing to would need to come true, right? We would absolutely need to be able to adapt, and some of those things are exactly the long levers that are that could make such a difference through the change agents. But I'm really, I think some of the value is going to come up by looking at what's specifically unique to this network, as opposed to there's a number of networks that are around change agents for organizations.
Mm-hmm. My picture is, if this network is really working well, it is like, you have seen this Kung Fu series when you were young? Or when I was young, there was this with David Carradine.
Yeah.
This Kung Fu series, and this Shaolin monastery.
Yes.
And they're trained in all different skills, and it's clear that they are going into the world. And for me, it would be the same. It's like, could be a good place to come back maybe, but also to be trained and to be effective and humble in the world and doing things.
Mm.
So this is my picture here. So it would be a very intense place, but it's just my picture. It says a lot about me and my personality and my dreams. But I don't have a clear focus where this network should go. I'm happy to co-evolve and go with the flow.
I didn't watch that show a lot, just a little bit, but I remember the opening scene when he picks up the hot thing with his arms.
I think there is something about that kind of intensity of the container that facilitate that transformation, like a little bit of the alchemy. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that in words, but that could be interesting to have that idea.
It might be something connected to what I was trying to grapple with around community too. This is a very intentional community. It's not just a stop in once in a while and get refreshed. It's a place where we're asking folks to join and really transform themselves.
Well, and to pick up, Beatrice, on what you're saying, it seems to me one of the major shifts is to be able to shape a holding space or a container so that people can do this work instead of the old model where, you charge in and lay it on people and whatever, a lot of directing and telling. So the skill and the art of shaping a space where people are safe to develop, it seems to me is critically important. I don't know if that adds anything or what you were thinking, but the container holding the space is really important in my mind.
I think it is. I'm not sure it fits in the purpose. The challenge in the purpose statement is that we are not describing what the network is. Right? We are describing what it does. And
yeah, I'm on a detour here. I was just checking on what you talked about, so it didn't sit there by itself. But I agree.
I want to make a comment in terms of for me, it would be okay to have, maybe not on the 3 statements or the 2 in a way and so that, we're doing it only at one level, to have a list in one level. I think it would be okay if we cannot create a whole sentence. This being said, I wouldn't want this list to be too long, so I think that there needs a way to maybe three elements, but I think that's getting a little long if we start having five items in the 2 statement. And again, I mean, you said to be able, Brian, so you're describing capacity of what I was wondering, if that the ability to reframe the current conversation with that paradigm, I'm wondering if that's not part of the second question, which is what that enable once you are able, once you have shifted the mindset in yourself, then you can enable that conversation with organization. So that one I think might fit better in the second question. And guys, feel free to comment or reflect as you go. So I'll keep going while no one is saying anything, but please.
Beatrice, may I say something? I'm just wondering about Brian's point, because I hadn't thought of it before on number one there, where if it is something around evolving our capacity to work in a developmental way, I think his subpoint around and our own ability as practitioners to be in community, because it really resonated with me that working solo is quite habitual. And so I'm wondering about not only just evolving our capacity to operate developmentally, but can we add something in there about the community, about ourselves learning how to truly work in community?
What I was going to say is that I would want to avoid in the purpose statement using the above the line, because it means only something to us. So somehow, and I don't know if saying above the line means something different than being in the service of greater life, or maybe that needs to be qualified in terms of what that means.
Yeah, we didn't. I remember from the last call that wholeness really resonated with a lot of people. And I'm noticing I didn't use that this time.
I have a question about the process. Are we now using Brian's statement that you wrote now as a draft for the purpose statement?
Not necessarily, but Sandy only has one line, which is a capacity to continuously work in a developmental way. So we can bring that up as well, but we're trying to reconcile now all the
but we're not trying to build on the material in the upper part of the document.
Well, I've been scanning back at that and seeing what else was there about wholeness, etc. But I think it's worthwhile to mine that from the prior discussion as well.
Right. I think, and that's why I left it in the same document so that we can go back and forth. So I think we need to use it as kind of reference and kind of check back with whether we have incorporated the essential elements of what was shared.
For example, there's one on the last one that we got to when we're talking about wholeness, to develop committed practitioners to see and act through a conscious wholeness. I think that was starting to get to what people were feeling, above the line meant, I think, without using those words.
So to Werner's question, what should the process be? Should we try to start drafting something that synthesizes this, or?
It's it's the idea, but there was so many statements last time that I thought we would use them more as reference that as a starting point.
Right. So having done all this exercise, then at the very end of the document, I've got a blank frame. So what would be a way to start pulling that together?
I'm struggling with Word today, really, because I found everything very generic. And I found word or words that like real development, what does that mean? What real development is? The real doesn't work for me. It's just like this. So
well, I know it's hard because when I'm talking about life in quotes or real development or
so the ability to discern, for me, that's very specific. Connect to something core that's becoming vague again. Work and build, able to build and work a community, that's specific. So I'm wondering, shifting from traditional mindset to the ability to discern and develop capacity in service of greater life. I don't know, I'm just...
Well, I think part of the problem is that we're struggling to have a language, particularly a non-denominational language, for what that deeper thing is, what the real life is, what it means to be truly human. So if we were, some schools use the essence way of talking about that. Others use. I've been experimenting with using life because it seemed more non-denominational. It seemed like it wasn't tied to Carol. It wasn't tied to, but it was tied to this notion that we're on a living planet, and that we're participate in living systems, and that we ourselves are alive, and that there's some way of tapping into where that life comes from and what that life can be in service of. But the minute you start putting words on that, you're adopting one kind of tradition of how you do that. So it's hard. I agree with you. It's hard not to be generic there, but I don't want to.
So complete the sentence then, Brian, and this is sort of the functional part of this is the to statement, right? So yeah. To discern and act.
I like that, and I like the directness, because the shifting from traditional mindset, what does that mean? What is traditional? What is not traditional again? But that is really specific. When you start with discern and what do you say, act?
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's about our awareness and how we choose to act in the world.
Right.
But there's something around that it's done from this sense of wholeness or working with life or looking at, and I'm just
well I think that
to complete your thought.
Okay, so discern and act from a sense of wholeness in the service of greater life. Somehow we have to bring the community, and I'm wondering if there isn't something
was that part of what wholeness is that you're getting broader perspectives? So there could be a qualifier to say, what are we talking about wholeness? We're talking about the whole person, the whole organization, the whole
And
community.
Steve,
Go ahead.
Steve, you had said to be intentional in community. I'd written down.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay. I feel that that's. I don't know that that's part of the transformation. That may be more our way of being, which is more the second part, I would have thought, in a way that.
I'm wondering if after wholeness, in parentheses, we could not put something that you had used, Brian, in your document about the network, which was something in the premises, something related to the interconnectedness of life. Because that's what, and I think it will work, because even in the service of greater life, it's a bit, but to discern and act from wholeness, which is the interconnectedness of living system, in the service of, and I don't know if we want to be specific here in terms of unleashing potential or realizing potential. Because evolved capacity, that's what evolved capacity is. So we don't have to use evolved capacity, but that's realizing potential.
But wouldn't those later order effects about potential, etc., be more in the so that? Possibly. We're really just looking at the transformation on the practitioners at this point. And maybe I'm wondering if the community aspect is more the way that we operate.
Yes, and the only caveat to that is to what Sandy was saying, that it's also an ability for all of us individuals to be able to work in community. Mm-hmm. So it is part of a practitioner transformation to consciously decide and develop the ability to be part of and build the communal aspect of this network.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But particularly since we don't have the habit of doing that.
So sorry, I missed the point here. So we don't want don't want community here on the two statement.
Well, I heard Steve saying that there's a communal aspect of this that's kind of part of the either in a way of that or so that, but there's also, I was saying that there's also a transformation of the practitioners themselves to develop our ability to work in community.
Could we capture that by this phrase I'm liking at the beginning? And in parentheses, we could do something including seeing our community as a living system, because it's about that capacity to see and help the community to thrive, right? And to thrive within it in a reciprocal relationship. Is that potentially a practice field of this way of discerning and acting from wholeness? And that way we're not having to blend different transformations.
And I'm also wondering if the community, the building of the community of practitioners, is it directly the purpose of the network? Because if that's directly part of the purpose of the network, we could include it as a starting point to build a community of practitioners
capable of,
well, not capable yet,
yeah,
or learning to discern and act from.
I like that.
I was thinking something along the line, evolve practitioners' capacity and ability to be in community, and community. So evolve practitioners' capacity and community to discern, etc.
So how would that, so if I started the phrase with to build a community of practitioners, how do I make the switch to observing and acting?
So finish that one. Who learn to discern and act. That one will have one full sentence, and then we can play with Sandy's sentence.
Who
Learn to discern and act.
you want learn as the verb?
Or Sandy, were you saying to build a community of practitioners evolving their capacity to discern and act from the wholeness?
I think there's two things that we're evolving. One is our capacity, but one is our ability to be in community genuinely and authentically. I think that's a really important point in a developmental way. Because if we can't do it together developmentally, we're certainly not going to do it out in the field. I just need to look at this document again. I'm wondering if we could, I think we could leave out the learn.
Just build?
Yeah, build a community or cultivate a community, because I don't know if that works for anybody.
That's nice.
Cultivate to me talks about sort of you're preparing the soil, and we can lay the soil and get it all ready, but when we plant the seeds, it's up to us to make them grow, and nature.
That's more of a living system phrase than build, which is a bit more mechanical.
Okay, that's getting somewhere. To cultivate a community of practitioners who are evolving their capacity to discern and act from wholeness and the interconnectedness of living system. Oh, do you need the? Yeah, maybe.
Because what's implied in there, I guess, Sandy, and that maybe you were saying it should be more explicit, is that part of, we're cultivating the community, and part of us learning how to be in community is how we see ourselves as a living system.
I think it's embedded in the verb cultivate.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's like, you're like the gardener, you build the ground and the element of the garden are kind of evolving together. So I don't know.
I'm thinking you could take out the who are evolving and just put to cultivate a community of practitioners. Take out the who are.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense though, like that?
Mm-hmm.
Or to evolve, if that's better. I don't know.
There would be a lot of two is a 2D.
Yeah.
So
and then what about, Brian, your point about living and alive and all that? Is that captured in living systems?
Yeah, it kind of gets incorporated into the living systems then.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Bernhard? Okay.
I was just going back and checking Bernard's list there of things. See if they can be incorporated in some way, but
everything fine. I'm just very tired. It's midnight here.
Yeah.
okay.
I think it's pretty good. Let's should we try the second statement?
So that.
So in a way that Sandy above a shift from conventional thinking and ways to developmental more humanity. So again, in a way that we're looking at what that transformation that happened in above enable the practitioners to do for organization and what's the value for organization. So we're really describing the value here.
Yeah. And in this case, if you take, I agree that I would take Bernard's your answer to the third question and put them as answers to the second question. If that was the case, then your answers and my answers are very similar, just said in different words.
Yeah.
It's that there's somehow the systems become alive. They get this vital energy, vital functions, and greater systems enable life quality for humans. Systems are seen or recognized as organisms having a life on their own.
Brian, you used the phrase "breathe new life" last when you were talking, meaning purpose, values, etc.
Yeah.
Which then you said leads into developing the organization developing itself and the collective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could we put some of those words down and then we can have a peek at them?
I mean, the wording's not great. Into themselves doesn't work, and I don't know.
And I don't know what the they is. Here the they is reorganization. So
Yeah.
we need to be clear that needs to be part of that sentence. I think there is something about also the individual in the organizations. So Bernard had something about agent with the potential to take responsibility to adapt and learn. So it's breathe new life into. Yeah, I would have. So maybe the way I was thinking about it is to breathe new life into organization within which people can be agent or take responsibility, or so I'm trying to connect to what Bernard has there.
Just to clarify, Beatrice, are you talking about the individual and the collective?
Yeah, I think the breathe new life is into organization, and then it's the organization, once it has new life, that enable the individual to self-actualize.
Mm-hmm.
You said something about inter-organizations and within them, something. Right?
Yeah, so that's what I had. Into organization within which I would remove in their work. It's kind of included in that. And within which individuals can
Say people.
positively contribute to something, or play a vital role, something like this.
I'm wondering just something about breathe new life into individuals, the collective, and the organization, or the business, or whatever. Would that help at all?
Was there something about that it's the organization's mission that then people can get energized around, find meaning in, and realize their own potential through that. So breathing new life into the systems. I think what I was intrigued by with Bernard's statement is saying that where energy is invested to generate structures and cultures that sustain life. That it's those structures and cultures of the organization that are the focal point.
So, okay, so you could say into organization whose structures and culture enable people to play a vital role.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to break that out, but I'm just saying that that's the reason for the primacy of the organizational.
Bernard?
Yeah, for me, this is not just a detail. At the moment, I think at least, that the purpose of the network is to focus on systems.
Right.
So much on persons.
Right.
So if we would be the human potential movement, I think we would focus more on persons, on people. So for me, I think it would be a distinctive characteristic of the network.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you want to have organizations and systems, because we are looking at potentially?
I think I hear him saying that in our view, the organization is a system.
Yeah.
Right. And nested in other systems.
And
it's by breathing life into the systems that allows. You've got to think in nestedness. You got to bring it all alive. You can't just bring the people alive. You can't just bring the organization alive.
Beatrice, the other thing I'm wondering about is potential somewhere. Are we thinking that goes here or in the next step, or is it important to include that?
I mean, it could be play a vital role. I don't think it's their vital role, it's a vital role. And while expressing their potential.
And I wouldn't put any word in front of vital role. I would just take out the there or the or whatever and just leave it vital role.
But as system, I don't think it adds to say organization as systems. Is the organization within which culture and structure and culture, to go back to what Bernard was talking about, enable people. Because
but there's more to systems than structure and culture.
Well,
structure, culture, process.
Well, and you have them, the three, right? You actually remove culture, it's kind of a part. You have system, structure, and process. That makes the whole system. That makes the whole organization.
Okay, so throw something out.
Within which?
Maybe you want to add, so put all of them within which process, system, structure, and culture. So you would add the culture, I think.
Say it again.
Within which process, systems, structure, and culture enable. These are the enabler. Once you have that, they enable people to play and realize their potential.
the whole thing realizes its potential, right? All of it, not just the people.
And more because it's also realizing the potential of the larger system. That's kind of the third. I don't know how to.
Maybe you could put that up here into organizations. Something about realizing the potential within which process system structures. Or maybe that's down in the so that.
Yeah, I wonder if we're listing too much about the organizations there. I think the bigger point, and what I understood Bernard making, was that by the organization realizing its potential and us putting energy into that, that creates the ability for people to play vital roles and realize potential. So it's something about the reciprocal nature of breathing new life into organizations that is unique. I just worry we'll lose people with too many subsets of what's in the organization.
Is breathing new life what practitioners are going to do with this new capability? Because that's what it says now. It says that once you've transformed and you have gained that ability to discern and act from wholeness and unconnectedness of living system, the value you generate is to breathe new life. I'm not sure that's what this is.
Well, as a theologian, breathing new life is something that God does into Adam. Breathing air into his nostrils. So I'm not sure if we are playing God in systems, but we are. So it's maybe we are doing something so that the organization breathes new life, not we are breathing new life into the system. That's too godlike or subject object.
Yeah, even if we are sparks of the divine, it's probably the organization that we're connecting the organization to breathe its own life. Yeah.
Or reach its potential. Maybe we should breathe its new life. I wasn't meaning we had to put those words in. I just like the notion of being alive like that it's a new way of living.
I mean, the reason I use that phrase is it's very experiential. And the difference when an organization starts to behave this way, it literally feels like there's new life in the building. There's new life in the system. There's new energy. There's new excitement. There's new connectedness, and so that's very tangible to me, rather than theoretical.
Would it be fair to say, in a way, that organizations breathe new life?
I think you need that connection that between the practitioners, what the practitioners do, and that you need to bridge the two in a way that's it's kind of tricky.
Well, is it that organizations see new potential that breathes life,
or cultivate new potential?
Yeah, but I don't think, Brian, you can put the organization right away, because you have to build that junction with the practitioners in a way that allow the practitioners to generate value. That's what we are talking about, but we are trying to be specific.
So we are looking for a verb that practitioners are doing, right?
Yes, there is a. We need to, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, it's something around shifting the level of thinking, which or shifting the level of potential at which the organization is unfolding, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
What about just shifts organizations?
But you can shift organization, it needs to be qualified, because you can shift organization in many different ways, which are not our way.
I thought it was about shifting them to realize and accomplish their potential or move toward it or something.
I'm looking for inspiration in some of the previous statements that were there. There was one around, supports organizations to cultivate capacity to pursue their generative potential. Maybe a bit jargony, but
there is something about connecting to and pursuing potential, their own potential. That is one of the main things that the new life comes from, is by, and there's a lot packed into that, by connected to who they actually are, by connecting to who they actually are, and how they're related to their own systems. They start to see that whole picture, and that's where the energy of life starts to flow from.
Could it be something along that connects organizations to their own potential, something along that line?
Beatrice, I'm not sure. I was hearing you as if you were looking for a phrase where we could see what practitioners are doing with the organization or in the organization.
So yes, and what Sandy just added does that. Whether or not it's the right way of saying, but that's what he does. It's at the practitioner. So once they have learned to discern and act from wholeness and living system, they do this in a way that connects organization to their potential.
Is it connects organizations to cultivate their potential?
Well, you cannot connect the organization to cultivate. You can.
I think the potential just is.
Right.
You get more and more connected to it, and you can see more and more of it over time. Is my experience.
I mean, you can connect to the existing and grow potential, but the other verb that I use often with potential is uncover, because it's uncover and realize. First you have to see it, and then you have to realize it.
And now we would continue with so that they breathe new life or something.
Yeah, I think ideally you would want to have they as a practitioner again.
Well, what about in a way that organizations connect to and pursue their own potential? Or sorry, uncover and realize their own potential.
Yeah, I think for it doesn't change our understanding, but I think for the structure of the sentence to work as a whole sentence with a three statement, you will need the practitioner here. So you need, in a way, that they, because otherwise you're missing, there is a gap. There is no connection between the two statements, and in a way that.
They connect organizations?
They, I don't want, this is a sentence that I use so often that I don't really want to use it here, but in a way that they help uncover, help organization uncover and realize their potential.
I quite like that, because it's implying it's working from an evolving capacity rather than, we're the ones connecting it directly. So
no, you're evolving exactly the capacity of the organization to do that. Right. And there maybe, so in a way that they help organization uncover and realize their potential. And maybe what they also do is breathe new life within processes, systems, structures, and culture that enable people to play. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's what practitioners also do. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be, but then some of those phrases could be in the so that as well, right? But maybe for now we put it all there and we see, because there's another dimension too about what the organization, once it's operating at potential, what that is capable of, second order effects on other systems.
So what does it achieve? So so that I was thinking more when I said how does that enable the organization to achieve in regard to its own environment. I was looking at kind of the larger system beyond the organization. So here we are still talking about the breathing new life into the organization itself, right? Through process, system, and structure. The so that is going beyond that.
Would it be okay to take support instead of help?
Help, support, that seems a bit passive. I don't know if there would be a word that is a little bit more like engage. Or
well, my problem with help is if we take the steps of above the line. I think helping is the last stage below the line. So I know we mean something different here, but maybe
to develop would be the.
Develop would be along the lines of what we're doing. Words like catalyze.
If you put it as an ing, if you said in a way that shoot, I lost it. I had a verb that that engage organization in uncovering and realizing their potential. And breathing new life, that the organization is breathing is new life itself through the support. Breathing new life, I would say, into processes, system, structure, and culture.
Yeah.
that enable. Oh, I see. That's the thing that Steve, you were saying that goes to the.
Yeah, I think the other bits can go on so that, and I think I like develop more than engages, because that's, you want to work in a developmental way that brings that premise into the way that we're working with organizations.
Well, my concern is that if we develop an organization, the organization looks rather passive. And so I like the metaphor of engaging, because it's like inviting to a dance, and the organization is dancing.
Okay.
You could use the word evolve in a way that evolve because what we are doing is evolving capacity. So in a way that evolve the capacity of organization to uncover and realize their potential.
Yeah, but I like Bernard's point that engage is very specifically what the practitioner is doing.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I also think we've got evolving capacity in the first line, so it's good to use something more direct with that. Okay.
And should it be pursuing instead of realizing? Because at some level, realizing is a so that kind of end state, where pursuing is the process.
That's true.
Okay. Well,
And then I think it would be engaged, not engages.
Yeah. Beatrice, you had said they engage organizations to uncover and pursue. Take off the INGs.
No, I had added them, but I don't know what is grammatically correct. I added the ing because it's I would say it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I like the active verb part.
Because you said when you verbalized at one point, you said without the ing, so I was just wondering.
No, I was actually adding it. Yeah, and I think you need to, if you put systems plural, I think I would say into processes, I would put everything plural except cultural.
Right.
Structures and culture, enabling people. Okay. All right, we have 25 minutes, so let's see if we can get to the last statement at least, so that and we can always go back. All right, so that's.
I wonder if the people playing vital roles is part of the so that, and maybe it goes beyond the people, because it's the people, it's the organization, the stakeholders, everyone. We're that's what full potential is starting to look at. Right, so we just, however we define that, and so that I'd move it all there.
Yep.
And part of that's making unique contributions, right? Or the realization of essence.
Yes.
But I like some of the language around unique contributions that's in the words.
But here, if you put people, I would say people and organization, because it's happening at the larger scale as well.
Agreed.
So that people and organization.
About unique contribution or something, or do we need to say anything about contribution, or is vital roles enough?
You could say and make contributions.
Kind of, it's almost by making
Okay.
I think we need to be way more specific here in terms of what that contribution is about. That's what the "so that" is about, is a description of the transformation of the larger systems in the result of everything else.
And I wonder if it's not just play, but can play, where it's enabling that because of the new life that's breathed into organizational life that now enables people and organizations can play or can realize their unique contribution and play vital roles in the
So what is the ultimate transformation that we would want to see as a result of helping organizations realize their potential?
They operate developmentally.
That now beyond themselves. We're talking about a system beyond organization here. The "so that" is beyond the organization.
So to the field.
right.
It's either to the field now or to the environment, to the industry, to the market, to the communities, to society.
We kind of want those systems to flourish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's very generic. Yeah.
But it is, yeah, it's the customers, it's the communities,
Right.
the employees having the ability to flourish.
Yeah, I mean.
Right, but but we want to be more direct than that, right? We don't want them to have the ability to flourish. We want them to flourish.
Yep.
I had thrive.
Yeah, thrive.
But I think the question is, how are we describing, because we don't want to spell it out, right? We don't want to say industry, market, community, social ecological systems. So how are we going to, is that just speaking about the stakeholders in general? And stakeholders, and in parentheses, we could put then, but if that's a parenthesis.
Yeah, I find the word stakeholders bland.
Yeah.
and I often err on the side of listing who they are to make it more specific, but then I don't like that either, so I don't know what the right answer is.
The word ecosystems comes with baggage, but it more accurately kind of describes organizations and their ecosystems, people, organizations, and their ecosystems, and then parentheses with a list of examples. How does that work in your guys' world?
So, okay, so that people in organization play, I don't know why I don't feel the plural work with vital roles, play a vital role and make a unique contribution to the flourishment of their ecosystem and to the flourishing of
with you.
So to start with customers, communities, ecological systems,
Industries.
yeah, social ecological systems. Yeah.
Making their unique contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, the word is missing here. Yeah. So the test here is that's the statement generating will for the network, the so that.
Mm-hmm.
So the test is, does that generate enough will in you? Is that exciting enough that is worth pursuing?
I think it's wordy.
Yeah, vital roles and unique contributions may be one concept, but there's something about the fact that it's energizing to the people and organizations, and that's the energy that makes it sustainable, regenerative.
So what you're talking about here in terms of energy, I feel it's a statement of being, state of being, and that's the inner way that. The inner way that is a being state, is a new being state created.
Yeah.
And I agree this needs to bring new energy, but I think the breathing new life is probably enough too. By the way, if we didn't want to put life here, we could put breathing new energy into processes, system, structure.
It's true. Do we need the unique contributions? Is vital roles enough?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking.
Okay.
Because I think that that's another way of defining, that it's unique, because it's the vital role that you're playing in something larger than yourself, but it's vital to you as well. So it's part of realizing essence.
Is there some notion of coming alive, so that people and organizations come alive playing their vital roles in the person?
That's before. That's in a way that.
No, the actual coming alive is it can be a so that as well.
Not of the organization, of the larger systems, but not, and you have it is in the flourishing of the ecosystem. The so that is focused on the system that benefit from the change in organization.
Okay.
In a way that I will be tempted to change life by energy. Because we already have living systems.
Okay.
I just realized reading the statement that I'm coming from a field where a lot of people are demanding a lot from the state. They have a very political view of what the state should be doing. Now reading the statement, I realize we're just focusing on the individuals and organizations. And of course you could say that the government is also an organization, but it's different aspects. So, but I think it's part of what the future is about. So there are many people who have more hopes into organizations and companies than into the state. So I like what is there, and I see it also really as a purpose of the network.
We could in a way that engage organizations in all sectors if we wanted to be all-encompassing.
It was not an impulse to change something. It was just a realization of my own thinking.
Yeah, with what's going on in all of our countries. US, France.
I think we would need, sorry Beatrice?
Go first.
We would need time to translate or to engage with each sentence, with each third, with each part, so that a common understanding, for example, what's a vital role, so that a common understanding can develop in our network. I think it would be dangerous to pick it up too quickly and to go to the next step.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a little wording thing. I think it would read better as in a way that enables them to engage organization.
Oh, I think we might have lost Steve. Is that you, Steve?
Yes, I've got a problem with my computer, so I'm shutting it down. There we go. I should be just on the phone now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, in a way that enables them to engage.
But
yeah.
Doesn't the enabling come in the to statement?
No, once the transformation of the practitioner happened, the transformation enables them to engage.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know the illustrated version of Reinventing Organizations?
I haven't seen it yet. I know that it exists, yeah.
It's really nice. And so when I read this long sentence, it really cries for a drawn, illustrated version of people and organizations, and where you can see what is happening.
Mm.
So like a chain reaction of effects.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You did do a drawing, right, Bernard? At one stage early in this process.
Yeah, but I'm not good in drawing people. I'm good relatively good in drawing concepts, but not so good in drawing people. Beatrice, congratulations.
A good challenge.
Congratulations, Beatrice, for guiding us.
Congratulations to you guys, because it's a collective effort.
Are you suggesting that we should start with an image like this?
It's
so Beatrice,
it's
Did we
quite
co-create?
funny for all of us.
Are we in the co-creating baseball field at least?
I think so. I think so.
So well done, well done. And okay, so that's our best shot, I think, for tonight. I think it's my perspective. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
The way and it'd be good to sleep on it and look at it fresh tomorrow. And I think, Bernard, it's going back to what you're saying, is looking at every section, every words, every and or subset, of sentences, and looking at what does that truly mean, and if we are really meaning this, will that take us where we want to go, or will that do whatever we want to do? That's and obviously it should feel like a stretch, because if we were able to do this right now, we would not need the network. So it should feel like, wow, okay, but discern and act from the wholeness of living system. I don't know how to do that. Well, okay, that's good. We'll figure it out.
My question is, Brian, especially to you, how do you see the next steps, and what's the role of the core group? I'm not sure if core group is the right term, but if there is a role, I think now would be the time to take the role.
Yeah, I agree. I think this statement then, I'm hoping this statement kind of gives something that allows the core group and other groups to start to move to discernment and action.
So, Brian, how about if you send it to the network as a draft?
Okay.
And then, I mean, we can talk about next step, but of course it needs to be kind of veto and accepted by the rest of. So there is a little bit of that process, and then looking at.
This might be where Lumio could play a role with accepting this, yeah.
Or just checking, are we going to let it sit with us for a few days too, though, before we send it out?
We can do this. I don't think there is urgency to send it by tomorrow. If we want to take a few days just among ourselves, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Why don't we do that? I've recorded this video, so I'm gonna post the video in Slack, but why don't we take to what's today? Tomorrow's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Until the weekend, until the end of the week, to think about it and share comments amongst ourselves. And over the weekend, then I will post it if we're still in agreement.
Well, Beatrice, thanks for helping us through this.
No, thank you to you all. I mean, this is really a collective effort. It needs everybody. So I'm glad you're stuck with me through the entire process, and you're still there. And we have a draft.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's getting there. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks for sticking with us late into the night, Bernard. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Yes.
Christmas.
All right.
See you all in the new year.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you.